A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to another episode of Man Up. Hii ni kona ya wanaume, where we sit down as men and discuss pertinent issues that affect men in this generation. Now, last week we began a series talking about redefining masculinity, and we continue with that trend for the next couple of weeks. Tonight we want to look at vulnerability and masculinity. What has society taught us? What is vulnerability in the first place? And is it a strength? Is it a weakness? Has society taught us as men not to be vulnerable? How do we interact with this in this generation? I've got two amazing men in studio with me today to help me get into this conversation. First and foremost, I've got Shem Mutugi. Shem is a host of a show he does online called Raising Giant Men.
Yes.
Karibu.
Asante sana.
Raising Giant Men, tell us a bit what it's all about.
Raising Giants is a show it's a show about the men.
Okay.
And we just look at who the man is, and especially how God created the man, how he is discharging his responsibilities.
Okay.
Does he understand his purpose? Does he understand his vision? Does he have a vision?
Yeah.
And going forward, we have amazing people that we bring on the show, just to help the man to understand who he is and where he is right now, the things that he's struggling with, and where he ought to, and how he can get to that place where he can become a giant.
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
I like it when I hear other people doing stuff to do with men.
Yes.
You know, because we've talked about it, but now people are actually, coming to the forefront and beginning to do different programs for men. So I'm excited about that. Today the host becomes the guest.
Yeah.
Karibu sana. We also have counseling psychologist Gregory Maurangugi. Gregory, how are you doing?
Mzuri sana.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Good to have you on the show today.
Asante.
Vulnerability.
Yes.
Yo matamshi saa zingine yanakataa kutoka vizuri.
Yeah.
Vulnerability. What does it mean to be vulnerable?
Allow me to share this or to give it a definition from two dimensions, then I'll elaborate. The first item on vulnerability is, first of all, allowing Maura Greg to encounter myself.
You to encounter yourself.
It is called intra-vulnerability. Do I understand myself? Am I a wounded man? Am I functional? Am I okay? Am I able to sleep? Am I able to eat my feeding patterns? Am I able to concentrate? All right? Am I able to remember some key things in my life?
Yeah.
To encounter myself, my own story. Where am I coming from? Where are my successes? Where are my failures? Am I owning them? It's a birthplace for authentic
self.
Me, the true me.
Yeah.
I think I'm saying this. I'm saying this because if I'm not true to myself, then I cannot be true to the other. If I'm wearing facades to myself, no one will ever encounter me.
Yeah.
So if I'm true to myself, then the other can encounter me. To what extent can I be vulnerable? Two principles. One, when I tell you who I am, will you be scandalized? Will you wonder, if even Greg undergoes this, that means you're being scandalized by who I am. Then two, can you handle it? Right? Because if you allow yourself to be encountered by every Dick and Harry, you'll be wounded. Very much wounded. So you have to authenticate as a person, who is this I'm allowing to my world, to my space. So for me, it's very, very, very important. Can this person, will he be scandalized by my story?
Yeah.
Can he or she allow me to be? He can handle it. Whatever is on the table can be handled.
Yeah.
Then I can be vulnerable.
Okay. I'm just wondering, Shem, based on what Gregory has shared, could that then be the reason why, because it's generally said that as men we are raised up and society has taught us not to be vulnerable, could that be the reason why? Because I can't be vulnerable to everybody.
Yes, exactly. Because I remember, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Because we are good friends.
Okay.
And not only good friends, but we are vulnerable to each other. And our friendship actually started it was a common issue when we were going through COVID. And because we were neighbors then, And one of the major things that were happening is men were finding themselves in a place, you are at home very early, and he was going through some issues, I was going through the same issues, but I didn't know how to, share these things, because I remember growing up, I've never seen a man, cry, being told, you're a man, from the time I can't remember one time my dad showing me his weakness, him being vulnerable, he's coming in the house, doing his stuff, going when he's going to work. So it was very hard for me when he was coming to me and, sharing those kind of things. And one of the major things that happens is when our masculinity, which is, I don't like calling it toxic masculinity. I like calling it confined masculinity, because we are confined to certain issues, and you only find men expressing their two emotions. There are two major emotions. This anger and happiness. You will tell Shem when he's angry and when he's happy. Those are the only emotions that we quite are good at expressing. When it comes to grief, when it comes to disappointment, when it comes to this other kind of anxiety, I would really like to, just deal with them on my own. So here comes Greg, and and I always tell men, you need a man in your life. Raising Giants is a show about men. We have not. I know we've been told bring women on the show, but one day I asked a lady, do you know who a man is? Can you define to me male? And she was like, I thought male is this, I know male is, she was talking about the male genitalia. That's how she was describing a man. So I was like, you don't even understand who man is. So when men sit with men and talk about, their issues, and we are vulnerable to each other. So it's something we have to learn. It's a learning process, because most of us, we don't know how to be vulnerable. And it was...
I'm just wondering from what you're saying.
Yes.
Could it be then that men are actually vulnerable, but we are very careful who we are vulnerable to? Because taking the example of what he's shared about his father, it's interesting, because last week's show, I was sharing, I've never seen my father cry.
Yes.
To this day, and I know he's watching this show, every time I'm around my dad, I feel like he can handle any problem, because that's the persona he presented before.
Not even cry, even hold your hand.
So, because I never saw that, the question I ask, if I saw that at that point, would I have been able to handle it from what you've said? Could it be that he was vulnerable, but not to me, because I don't think I would have been able to handle it at that time?
Allow me to answer that from two dimensions. For me to be vulnerable, I have to come from a family that is very stable.
Yes.
I have to come from a family that allows me to make mistakes. And how these mistakes are handled, they're handled in a humane way. All right? As a parent, the bigger responsibility I have is to teach. The brain of a human being grows very slowly. A cow of 4 years has given birth maybe twice. A baby of 4 years is actually going to school. So human beings, we grow slowly. So for me to be vulnerable, it has first of all to emanate from my past. And my past is a family. Did my family allows me to actually be angry? I allow my son to be angry, even at me. And I want to know, are you angry at me? And he has the liberty to say yes or no. And even tell me, it's not you, it's mom. And I allow him to do that, because for me, that represents self-mastery. It's under self-awareness. So when you look at your father, the kind of culture that he found himself in did not even allow vulnerability on the level that we are seeing it today. The kind of lens I'm wearing today and the kind of lens my dad wore, those are two different lenses. The key thing I am proposing to the current man, kindly live the moment. The yesterday does not belong to us. Tomorrow would come. For me, the most profound moment is here and now. Am I functional? Am I constructive? Am I okay here and now? Because this is the moment. So you have to look at this particular man from the cultural view that he's coming from, and now has he been able to marry with the current ideology of being functional, allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Because for me, I don't have a problem with vulnerability. I lost my dad, and my wife was with me. You know, I will go for an assignment that is so tough, and I'll come and tell her, hey, Omboy, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
Allow just me to go and rest. And I'll tell the kids, you know, I'm coming from a very difficult day that really took toll on me. And I will allow, and I'll go home and express myself. Hey, guys, today was tough for me. Just allow me to go and sleep. You know, it is my tough day. It is not you guys. But I've come, I don't want to talk to anyone. I go to bed and I sleep. No, I'm communicating to my family. So, you know, what is this? I have allowed myself to be vulnerable enough to them for them to know how to be with me and to accompany me for who I am. All right? Because for me, vulnerability has to enhance the other. For me, it's a birthplace for authentic self. You have to be vulnerable also in a constructive way. Yeah. You know, in a way that it doesn't scandalize anyone. Okay. So there has to be some level of being constructive in the vulnerability. It allows life to be enhanced.
So I think sometimes the problem I have with some of these concepts is we try and generalize everything. You know, you've talked about being true to self.
Yes.
You know, who Gregory is not who James is.
True.
You know, maybe Gregory is more emotional than James. You get, maybe James is more emotional than Shem.
Yes.
Maybe Shem machozi yake lazima mchimbe kisima. True. Ndio muipate. Yeah, maybe a Gregory iko hapa. Maybe yangu iko huku. And so sometimes I find that when we generalize some of these concepts, it becomes a bit hard because we are trying to fit all men in one box. And so when we talk about a man being vulnerable, we have a certain picture in our mind that may not necessarily be ideal for every man. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yes.
Shem.
Yes, I think just to reiterate on what you're saying, I'll give you a good example between myself. The reason I'm giving is because we know each other a bit. And he shares easier.
Yeah.
He will be more direct. I will be taking corners.
Yes.
Because, you know, from where I'm coming from.
Looking for a place to land.
Yes. He has to dig. I remember like the first time we stood at the gate past curfew times and we were just talking there for like 4 hours. And my wife was asking me, where are you? I'm at the gate with Greg. So it also depends on even our characters, the way we are built. And I know sometimes it's a learning process, and especially men, when you're talking about vulnerability, it's a learning process. Yeah. Because people are different. Yeah. People will share on a jiffy, others will take time. She's a counselor, can tell you that sometimes a man can take one counseling session, another one, and you know,
before they really share what the issue is.
Before they can really, you know, tell you what's in their heart. Yeah, so I think it's a bit different when you're dealing with each and every man. And I think as men, we need to open up to other men and also just give them time. Yes.
I think I want to contextualize that question to the level of vulnerability. For me, there is bare minimum.
Okay.
Of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Let's go to the family level. I found that I'm mature enough to be encountered by another human being, in this sense, a female.
Yes.
Very specific, a female. So for the purposes of running this family, for the purposes of us growing as a family, there has to be some bare minimum of vulnerability. Who are you? What do you like? Where are the investments? Etc, etc, etc. For this family to run smoothly, where do you work? Right?
Yes.
In case you have some investments which are personal, which are belongs to the family, you know. So I think for me there must be some bare minimum. For functionability of the system called the family.
Very true.
There has to be some vulnerability at work. All right? When I'm not there, who should handle this work? All right? Who should sign
Yes.
There is the organogram in an organization.
Yeah.
There is some information that can only remain at the board level.
Yes.
If it trickles down, then the whole thing, the whole organization is broken down.
Yeah.
Even to the couple subsystem, even to the sibling, even to the parents. For me, there must be some bare minimum. And that is what a functional, effective person has to understand. You know, yes, maybe what the question that of generalization is not understanding the bare minimum for running the family.
Okay.
Tomorrow, if I don't wake up, will my family be able to educate our 3 kids? I have policies, maybe. I have never opened up. Right?
Yeah.
So the problem is not my wife, the problem is me.
In fact, we'll talk about that shortly. Because pengine kitambo ulichomeka. So now, you want to hold your cards close like this. No one should know. You're watching Man Up. We are talking about masculinity and being vulnerable. Kama kawaida, I'm only allowing you a minute. Ukimbia jikoni, ukunywe maji, urudi for part 2. We'll be back shortly.
Tomorrow on The Corner.
Guys cheat, you've been there, okay? You come and tell us negative things about your wife. Umsaidiaje kupika, ona venye anakaa, ona tajajipaka mafuta.
So over the years, infidelity has been an issue to both old and young people.
I used to cheat daily. It's a daily thing.
Kwa relationship watokanga na ugonjwa, heartbreak ama mimba.
When a man wants kukuficha,
Yes.
hautajua.
Don't miss out on The Corner tomorrow at 8:30 p.m.
Welcome back to Man Up. Tonight we are talking about men and vulnerability. And I've got 2 amazing gentlemen in studio helping us with this conversation. I was going to ask, I think just the way society has cultured us as men, we rarely show our weaknesses.
Yes.
You know, in fact, I remember one time we were at a place talking about investments. And one gentleman said, the problem with us men is we never tell each other how we made it. We only show our trophies. I've made it.
True.
But we never tell people the story of what I had to do to be where I am at today. You know, and so I'm just wondering, how do we change that narrative as men, where we can actually be open to one another? Forget even about our relationship with our spouses. Let's just talk about us as men. You know, you mentioned Jesus. Jesus hung out with his 12, you know, his 12 men. I wonder whether he was vulnerable to them, maybe
Very
vulnerable. So how do we begin to change that narrative?
Vulnerability is all about openness. It's about willingness to be vulnerable. And we have to have a non-judgmental approach. You know, that when I'm reaching out to you as James, when I'm reaching out to Greg, do I feel safe enough, you know, that I trust him enough not to judge me? And also, when you're looking at yourself also, if you judge yourself a lot also, you will always see like everyone is judging you. Yeah, so it starts with yourself. And I think it's high time as men just to realize that we are our brother's keepers and we don't leave a man behind. And to face the kind of challenges, because we have a lot of challenges and we are facing a lot. You know, you go to work, probably you're not meeting your targets and you're struggling with that alone. And you cannot go to a friend of yours who's a man and ask them, you know, how are you doing this? Man, you're always hitting targets. You know, you hit targets last year. This year you are 3/4 way done and we are not even half the year done. So don't look down on yourself. Just reach out. Yeah, it's always about reaching out. Because when you look, you've asked about the vulnerability of Jesus. He was so vulnerable. When you look at Christ, there was the first instant that we introduced Christ when he was at the wedding. And wine was running out, you know. We all know a wedding is a jovial place.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he was not there serious judging them. He was enjoying the moment, you know. To the point whereby when the guys were told, go to Jesus and he shall sort you out. Number 2, when he was doing the fast, the 40 days fast, you know, you fasted. You know, we've done 7 days fast, 3 days fast, 40 days fast. After a fast, you're hungry. You know, your physical being is asking for something. So until the temptation was done, is when the Bible says that he was attended to by the angels. So in between, he was all alone. So he was vulnerable. And here comes the tempter. He's tempting him in all aspects, telling him, you know this, you know that. But we saw because he knew himself, he knew who he was, and he knew whom he had come from.
Yeah.
He handled those issues there. And then when he was going at the Garden of Gethsemane, he was a bit very vulnerable, because we can see he called out for the men and told the men, I'm going through a lot right now. I need you to stay with me. I know they slept, but they were there with him.
They slept on the job.
They slept on the job.
I want to ask you a question, because this is probably something you deal with.
I want to touch on that.
Or you want to touch on Jesus in the garden?
The question that you asked, what is this that we have to do?
Yeah.
I have to do my personal assignment first. First. It starts with me. If I don't do my personal assignment, believe you me, vulnerability will never be a problem.
Hiyo personal assignment ndio nilikuwa nataka kukuuliza.
Okay.
Kwa sababu, you know, we have so many pictures of what a man is supposed to be. We have that which we saw with our fathers. We talked about our fathers earlier, you know, and the cultural setting. And we come from different cultures. Each culture had its own construct of what a man should be and their responsibilities. Now we are living in the modernized world. Now the world is a global village. So many images and demands of what a man is supposed to be. Truth be told, wengi wetu hatujielewi. Hatujielewi. Sometimes when you're trying to be the authentic you, it seems like, no, that's not it. So hiyo mahali pa kujijua, that place of knowing myself personally, how do I even get there? Mtu anapitiaga njia ya kwenda wapi?
Hiyo njia ya personal, ya meeting self is that one, you have to go to your story. Because for me to be seated here, I have a story.
You have a story, yeah.
I have to go back to my family. I have to, what was it communicated? What was I told? I have to have human courage to ask that again. I ask my narrative. I interrogate it to a level that whatever I see edifying, then I uphold it. Whatever I see demeaning, I deal with it. I ensure that I don't have a wounded inner me or a wounded child. The addictions you see in men, the issues you see in men, all are anchored on a dysfunctional self. Truth be told, I don't know how to hide it. I know how to say it like that. That is one. Two, at the point of identity, 12 years onwards, believe you me, there has to be an introduction of a man to this young boy to actually rebirth the man in him. So what does it mean to be a man? I was told a man is made up of three things. The first and the greatest one is responsibility. You are responsible of everything. What you see, what you think, what you eat, what you breathe. So make sure you are responsible for that. The other one is authority. The more you are responsible, the more authority you have. If you abscond responsibility, you don't have authority. And you don't have power. But you are responsible, you have authority, and you have power. So you have to be responsible, Greg. You have no room to say it's the other.
No.
It is yourself first. So for me, you have to find yourself. Come to this particular, there has been an introduction of a man, the mentor or have you. Then at the 20 years to 25 years, you have to differentiate from your family and integrate. Differentiate is sitting back and looking at the kind of family you're coming from. What are the positive things you have learned from it? And what are the negative things you have learned from it? Do away with the negative and pick the positive. To be able to recreate a new culture for yourself. All right? So for me, if you're responsible, you will have authority and you will have power. Those three things. Another very, very important thing, you have to read each and every day. Truth be told, personal development is key.
Sio kusoma gazeti.
Gazeti hata si gazeti ni outdated. Our president has a better answer, which I will not really say. So you have to have a book of the month as a man. You have to understand entrepreneurship. You have to understand running the family. You have to run. The Bible says, "My people perish because of lack of knowledge." You know, I ask parents, you want your kids to go to school and really thrive. They've never seen you reading a book. You know, as in, you have to be functional as a man. You have to have a book that you're reading. You have to wake up early. You know, I was told when I really wanted to get married that kindly, bibi akiamka mbele yako atakupanga. So amka mbele, kwanza ujiite kwa mkutano, strategize, ujue vile kutakuwa, ujue familia school fees itatoka wapi. Ndio sasa tukikuja kwa meza. Because believe you me, we are endowed differently by God.
Yeah.
And our differences is to enhance our lives.
Yeah.
Women can hold 5 thoughts at the same time. Yes. As a man, you only hold one. So you have to create extra time for thinking.
Very true. Very true. I agree with you.
So for me, as a man, you have to have your own time. Sorry to tell you this. We used to spend time in the evenings at the dark uko nje because we don't have spaces. Jemo, if I told you I'm coming to your place, you tell your wife that possibly nakuja, atapika chai na akae hapo. We don't have space.
Yes.
Right? We don't have space where we can be men. Unless now we go into hangout. Na tukienda kwa hangout, there is a psychology of the hangout.
Telling you.
Chai ndio hiyo, kunywa chai lazima mtoke. So we used to spend time outside.
Yes.
Because we don't have really spaces where we can be men. Safe spaces. Let your wife tell you, leo kuna chama. My friend, you will create a plan.
Yes.
Mimi nitachomoka.
Umeenda.
Hata kama sina mpango nitachomoka, itajiform tu nikiendaga. Yes.
So as a man, you have to create time for yourself and to create time for others. I want to put my boys in my car and I want to spend time with them. I want to go and see my projects with them.
Yeah.
I want to be with my daughter. You know, for him to understand how to be with the other energy, which is the male.
I'm telling you.
Right? So for me as a man, you have to do your assignment. Even Christ had his time to pray. Yes. He was functional. For me, you have to be functional as a man.
I think what both of you have shared in terms of that inner me, knowing myself, I think that is so important and foundational, and I think that's where many men struggle. You know, because we are trying to be something, maybe because society has portrayed it that way or this way, or I'm trying to be you.
Yes.
I'm trying to compete with you, you know, and I'm at a place where I don't really understand myself. So, like you've said, I'm a problem to myself and to those in my life.
Yes.
And that is why we have sometimes a chaotic society. Our time is up. My producer is showing me signs and wonders on this other side. And we have to shut it down. But I'm so encouraged by the conversation we have had. And I'm encouraged that you're also doing something about men. For people who want to connect with what you're doing online, on what platforms do you do what you're doing?
We have a page on Facebook, Raising Giants, and on YouTube also, Raising Giants.
Okay.
Yes.
Check them out and tell as many men as you can, because we need each other. We need to point each other to the places where we can find answers to some of the issues we are facing today as men. Gentlemen, asanteni sana. We are out of time for today. Until next week, my friend, be vulnerable. Have yourselves a good evening.